I told you, baby, she's just an old housewife. She doesn't even know how to log into internet banking.
The voice is sharp, arrogant, and far too familiar. From the slightly open door of the master bedroom in a high-rise apartment overlooking Victoria Island, a 60-year-old woman stands frozen. Her name is Funke Adeyemi, Mommy Timi to most people who know her. She's wrapped in a simple iro and buba, her hair tied back with a scarf. Behind her, the distant hum of Lagos traffic floats up from Amadu Bello Way. Car horns, Danfo conductors shouting destinations, the faint screech of brakes. The low drone of a generator from a neighboring building fills the spaces between. Inside the bedroom, the air smells of expensive cologne and imported perfume. A silk tie lies on the floor. On her own marriage bed sits her husband, Bayo Adeyemi, polished Lagos tech CEO, darling of business magazines. Beside him, in a fitted dress and eyelashes too long for her age, is Kemi, his 20-something personal assistant. Kemi giggles, twirling a strand of her Brazilian wig. "But Uncle Bayo," she says, pressing her body closer to him, "are you sure she won't suspect? You're always moving money from that joint account." Bayo laughs, a short, dismissive sound. "Suspect what? That I bought you a car? That I booked Dubai for your birthday?" He sneers. "She still sends people SMS with that her small Nokia. She doesn't even understand how shares work. I'm the one that built this company. Let her just be in the kitchen." Funke's fingers tighten on the doorframe. She had only gone out that afternoon to pick up some fabrics from a friend in Lekki Phase 1. She came back earlier than planned because the traffic wasn't as bad as usual. The driver dropped her at the lobby. The elevator ride up to the 15th floor had felt normal. Soft elevator music, cool air, stainless steel walls. Normal ended the moment she heard laughter in her bedroom. Kemi's voice again. "But what about the board? What if she causes wahala later?" Bayo's tone drops, arrogant and certain. "Which board? I am the board. I am CEO. I am chairman. Her name is just there for respect. She has small shares I gave her to make her feel important. When the time comes, I'll find a way to buy her out. She's already old, Jerry. In a few years, she'll be more interested in church programs than money." Kemi laughs louder now, a high, careless sound. Funke closes her eyes for a moment. Not because of the cheating, though that cuts deep. It's the words. Old, just a housewife, small shares. The city moves on outside, keke horns, church loudspeakers testing microphones for evening service, distant sound of hawkers calling gala, pour water, unaware that on the 15th floor of a glass building, a storm has broken in a woman's heart. Funke opens her eyes again. There is no shouting, no plate throwing. Calmly, she steps back from the door. In her handbag, her smartphone vibrates with a new email notification from one of Nigeria's top law firms regarding final confirmation of majority shareholding and board control in a certain tech company, SwiftNova Technologies Limited. The company the whole of Lagos believes belongs to one man, CEO Adebayo Adeyemi. What nobody in that room realizes yet is that the old housewife standing outside owns 62% of the entire tech empire. She is the silent founder, the first investor, the real power, and she has receipts. Before we go deeper, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Lagos, Abuja, Accra, Nairobi, London, Houston? Type your city or country below. If you believe people should stop mistaking quiet women for fools, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. African Karma Stories. Many years before the skyscrapers and the boardrooms, there was a hot, noisy compound in Surulere. The year was 1988. NEPA had taken light as usual. Children ran half naked in the corridor of the face me, I face you, chasing each other with pure water sachets. A woman shouted from one room, "Junior, come and do your homework before I reset your brain." A transistor radio somewhere played Sheena Peters faintly, struggling against the noise. In a small corner room at the end of the corridor, Funke sat on the edge of a foam mattress covered with flowered bedsheet, her wedding gown spread carefully beside her. The gown was rented from a woman in Yaba. One torn strap had been neatly stitched. The veil smelled faintly of the last bride's hair cream. She looked at herself in the cracked mirror leaning against the wall. 20-something, eyes bright, hope shining. Outside, in a slightly oversized suit borrowed from his cousin, stood Bayo, skinny, serious, clutching a plastic bag with his only pair of good shoes and a bottle of cheap cologne. His tie was crooked, his palms sweaty. Their wedding reception was in a church hall that leaked when it rained. The DJ's speakers were old, screeching whenever he increased the volume. The jollof rice was cooked by churchwomen, some grains soft, some still stubbornly hard, but everyone ate with joy. Malta Guinness and Coke in glass bottles clinked on plastic tables. When the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, people cheered. No one had money, but they had faith. Their first home together was a small, self-contained room near Ujielegba. The bathroom was outside, shared with 3 other tenants. At night, they could hear Danfo buses still honking in the distance as they lay on their mattress on the floor, dreaming about the future. Funke got a job as a junior accounts clerk in a bank on Marina. She would wake up at 4:30 a.m., boil water with a small kerosene stove, iron her skirt and blouse carefully, and join the Molue crowd to the island. Lagos traffic was already beginning to grow then, but nothing like now. Bayo hustled. He sold computer parts in Computer Village when it was still gathering shape. He learned to repair motherboards and install early Windows systems, sitting in cramped shops with loud generators and smelling of dust and soldering iron. On Saturdays, they would walk together across the 3rd Mainland Bridge pedestrian side in the evening sometimes, just to feel the breeze and dream. Funke, Bayo would say, pointing at the skyline of Lagos Island. "One day, I will have office there. Big glass building. People will call me Oga. CEOs, bankers, they'll all come and greet me." She would smile, adjusting the cheap handbag on her shoulder. "By God's grace," she'd reply. "But remember, it's not by mouth, it's by planning." Time passed. They moved from self-contained room to a small mini-flat in Surulere, then to a 2-bedroom in Bagada. Funke rose steadily in her bank job, known for her neat books and sharp eye. Bayo tried different hustles, computer sales, training center, cyber cafe, before the internet truly blew up in Nigeria. By the mid-2000s, they were in a modest but comfortable duplex in Ogudu. On Sundays, they drove their used Toyota Camry to church in Anthony. Their 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, wore matching Ankara sometimes for Thanksgiving services. Neighbors admired them. "This your husband is trying. See how he has moved you from Surulere to here. You are enjoying, oh?" Funke would just smile. People saw the surface, the nice rug, the generator that actually worked, the small fridge always stocked with pure water and malt. They didn't see the long nights she sat at the dining table with a calculator, planning, cutting, saving. They didn't know she was the one who had pushed him to register his first proper company. They didn't know that behind every Oga Bayo was a woman with spreadsheets and quiet questions. By the time they moved into the Lekki high-rise years later, waterfront view, security gate, underground parking, everyone believed the story was simple. Bayo, the tech genius who rose from nothing. Funke, the lucky wife who followed along. Almost nobody knew she was the first to believe in what became his tech empire. The storm that nearly sank them came long before SwiftNova became a household name. It began with a contract that looked too good to be true. In 2004, Bayo started an IT support company servicing small banks and oil servicing firms. He was making small, steady money. Then one day, a friend connected him to a huge government contract supplying imported computer systems to a federal agency. The numbers dazzled him. "Funke, if we land this thing, we are made," he said, waving the printed proposal in the living room. "I'm telling you, we will leave Ogudu very soon. Lekki, here we come." Funke read the document slowly, lips pressed together. She worked in a bank. She knew how these things could go. "Bayo, we have to be careful," she said. "Where is your capital? They want you to import first before payment. If they delay—" You worried too much," he laughed, brushing past her concern. "This is how people blow in this Lagos. Risk." He borrowed heavily, from the bank, from friends, from one loud money alhaji who didn't use contracts, only gentleman agreement. Funke begged him to slow down, to stagger the supplies, but Bayo was blinded by the potential profit. Then the storm hit. The dollar rate jumped. Shipment was delayed at the port. By the time the goods finally arrived, a new government directive had frozen that department's spending. Weeks turned to months. The agency kept saying, "Come back next week. Oga is not around." Interest on his loans piled up like refuse in Mushin. Funke watched him shrink. Once he had walked with shoulders high, joking loudly with neighbors. Now he sat at the dining table with his head in his hands, phone on silent to avoid creditors. The Alhaji sent boys one afternoon who waited outside the gate in a black SUV, their presence heavy as threat. "Madam, talk to your husband," one of them said, politely but firmly. "Oga wants his money. We've been patient." At work, Funke faced her own pressures. Her bank was merging with another. Rumors of staff downsizing filled the air-conditioned floors. Yet every evening, she went home, cooked for her family, and sat with Bayo, calculator between them. "We will not sink," she told him. "We will find a way." What Bayo didn't fully understand was just how deep Funke's own financial life ran. Years earlier, when she first started earning, she had joined an ajo, a contribution scheme, with some older women at the bank. While others used their lump sums to buy a soebi and travel abroad, she quietly bought small stocks, early shares in a young telecom company, some in a small payment processing startup few people believed in, a bit in a new cement company. She read business pages of newspapers like some people read gossip. When those companies began to grow, she didn't inflate her lifestyle. She reinvested dividends. Now, as Bayo's world threatened to collapse, she quietly went to her small home office, opened a metal box, and pulled out worn share certificates and statements. She met a young stockbroker in Marina, discussed liquidating some positions. She watched, heart heavy but steady, as the investments she had nurtured for over a decade were converted back to cash. Then she did something else. She took a big risk of her own. Through a colleague, she heard about a scrappy new software startup in Yaba. 5 young guys building payment APIs when most Nigerians still thought tech meant cybercafe. They needed a serious investor. Banks didn't look at them twice. Funke went to their tiny office one Saturday. Generators groaned, wires hung from the ceiling, pizza boxes were strewn about. But their code worked, and their vision was clear. "I'll invest this amount," she said, placing a figure on the table that made their eyes widen. "In exchange, I want this percentage of equity. And one more thing, I want the right to access your developers for a project later." They agreed quickly. That investment would later multiply, but at the time, her motive was survival, not speculation. She used the gains to quietly clear Bayo's worst debts, especially the dangerous ones that could end with men at your door at 2 a.m. When the bank threatened to blacklist him, she went, in her simple Ankara to meet the branch manager. "Sa, my husband made a mistake," she said respectfully. "He is not running. He just needs time." She presented a check, her own money, to bring the account current. The manager, impressed, agreed to restructure the loan. Bayo never fully knew how close he came to prison. After that near collapse, Funke sat him down one night at the dining table, papers spread before them. "If we are starting again," she said quietly, "we will do it properly. No more running up and down without structure." She placed a simple business plan in front of him. "This idea you have for a proper tech solutions company, SaaS for banks and fintech, we will register it. But this time, listen to me. Let us incorporate the company with me as founder and primary shareholder. You will be CEO, face the public. I will handle the structure and investment." Bayo frowned. "Why you? People will say." "Let people talk," she replied calmly. "I am the one bringing most of the capital. I am the one clearing your debts. If anything happens in future, our children must be safe. I will not allow any mistake to put them on the street." Reluctantly, still nursing his ego, he agreed. They went to CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission. Forms were filled, lawyers drafted share structures, documents listed Mrs. Funke Adeyemi, 62%, founder, majority shareholder, Mr. Adebayo Adeyemi, 15%, co-founder, CEO, remaining shares distributed among early angel investors and a small staff pool. Funke also set up a family trust, quietly naming their 3 children as ultimate beneficiaries of her shares. In public, she stepped back. She let him shine. He became Tech Bro Bayo, panel speaker, keynote guy, man in native with AirPods talking about innovation and disrupting the financial space. Magazines called him self-made. TV anchors asked, "How did you build this from nothing?" He would sometimes say, "It was just me and a few guys in a small office. Hustle, hustle, hustle." Once, a journalist asked about his wife. He chuckled. My wife, she's just a simple woman, She supported me with prayers. She doesn't understand this tech world." Funke saw the article. She folded the newspaper neatly and put it aside. In her email, she received board resolutions, audited accounts, investment reports. In her heart, she thanked God for wisdom. She didn't know that years later, the same wisdom would be the knife she used to cut herself free from humiliation. The actual discovery wasn't the first rumor. In Lagos, whispers move faster than traffic. Staff gossip, security men observe, receptionists hear everything. Funke had noticed small changes. Late nights became later. Business trips became more frequent and more vague. Perfume scents that were not hers began to linger lightly on Bayo's shirts. One day, she found a gold earring back on the rug, not matching any of her sets. She asked subtle questions. "This your new PA, is she coping?" Kemi, very hard-working girl," he would say. "You know these young people, always online. She understands social media. We need her. Don't start, please." Funke didn't argue. She watched. She listened. One Wednesday afternoon, she decided to surprise him at the office with lunch, old-school style. She told the driver, "Let's go to the office in VI." SwiftNova's headquarters was everything a Lagos tech dream could be. Glass facade, stainless steel, receptionist in sharp blazer, digital screens on the wall showing app dashboards and global stock tickers. Young staff in jeans and smart casual moved about with laptops, sipping coffee from branded mugs. As soon as Funke walked in, some of the older staff greeted her respectfully. "Good afternoon, ma." The younger ones, who only knew her as Oga's mommy, looked up curiously. "I want to see my husband," she said, warmly. The receptionist smiled politely. "He's in a meeting, Ma. Let me just call upstairs." Before the call could go through, one of the senior managers, an older man who had been with them from the early days in Yaba, walked past and froze. "Ah, Mommy Timmy," he exclaimed, a bit too loudly. "You didn't tell us you were coming." Funke noticed the flicker in his eyes, something like discomfort or warning. "It's a surprise," she replied. "I brought food, jollof rice and fried fish. He has been complaining about office food." The manager swallowed. "Okay, Ma, let me escort you upstairs." In the elevator, the silence felt heavy. Funke heard only the soft whirring of the lift and her own heartbeat. On the executive floor, outside Bayo's office, his personal assistant's desk was empty. Her nameplate, Kemi, executive assistant, stood alone. The manager hesitated, then gestured down the corridor. "Maybe he's in the lounge," he said. Funke walked, heels clicking softly against the polished floor. At the end of the corridor was a door to the executive rest suite, a small apartment for resting between long meetings. She reached for the handle. It turned easily. The smell hit her first, not the neutral scent of office air freshener, a thick, sweet perfume, and something else, wine, cologne, sweat. On the leather sofa, Bayo and Kemi were tangled together, his shirt unbuttoned, her dress halfway up her thighs. A half-empty bottle of champagne sat in a bucket of melting ice, 2 glasses, a takeout box of Chinese food from an upscale restaurant on the coffee table. The wall-mounted TV played a muted music video. Lagos skyline shimmered through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind them. "Jesus!" Kemi screamed, scrambling away, clutching a throw pillow to her chest. Bayo jumped up, eyes wild, belt unbuckled. "Funke?" She stood there, the food flask still in her hand, steam escaping quietly from its sides. Her scarf was slightly askew from the suddenness of it all. Her eyes took everything in. The lipstick stain on his collar, Kemi's high-heeled shoes thrown carelessly on the rug, the crumpled blazer on the chair. For a long heartbeat, no one moved. A younger Funke might have shouted, cursed, thrown the flask at his head, but 60 years on this earth, 20-something years in Lagos, and decades in marriage had taught her something. Noise does not always equal power. She inhaled slowly, exhaled. "Bail," she said, voice calm, almost gentle. "Button your shirt. Kemi, dress up properly." They stared at her confused. "We will go home. We will eat dinner together. We will talk." "Mama Timmy, please," Bayo stammered, trying to fix his belt. "It's not what you look like. We were just—" Funke tilted her head slightly, one eyebrow raised. "I did not ask for explanation. I said, dress up. We're going home." The calmness shook him more than any slap could have. On the drive back to Lekki, the city passed in blurs. Hawkers at traffic light banging on windows, beggars knocking, Okada swerving illegally, fueling stations hummed with generators, billboards advertising everything from fintech apps to skin lightening creams. Funke sat in the back seat, looking straight ahead. Bayo sat beside her, silent. The driver focused on the road, pretending not to exist. Outside, Lagos moved. Inside, something in their marriage had died. What Bayo didn't know was that while he had been busy unbuttoning his shirt in the executive suite, the office CCTV had quietly recorded everything, and in his drunken boasting earlier that week, he had said far worse about Funke than what she heard that day at home. Lagos is a city of cameras and gossip. Funke understood both. That evening, the Lekki apartment looked exactly like any other wealthy Lagos home at dinner time. The chandelier in the dining area cast warm light over the polished table. The AC hummed softly, fighting the humid night air. Outside the tall windows, traffic lights twinkled in the distance along the Lekki Epe Expressway. Somewhere below, security guards chatted, their voices faint. Funke moved around the kitchen island with practiced ease, supervising the cook. "Madame, should I still serve Oga?" the cook asked cautiously. She had sensed something tense in the air when they came in. "Of course," Funke replied. "Why would you not serve him?" The cook blinked. "Yes, ma." Bayo stayed in the living room, pretending to watch news on Channel's TV, phone in his hand but not really scrolling. When he caught Funke's eye, he opened his mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. "Dinner is ready," she called calmly. He came to the table like a boy called to answer for fighting in school. On the surface, everything was normal. Jollof rice, fried plantain, grilled chicken, salad. 2 glasses of water, cutlery in the right place. Underneath, there was a different menu: humiliation, fear, strategy. Before he sat, Funke quietly pulled her smartphone from her wrapper and slid it under a folded serviette on the table, camera facing forward, recording video. The red dot glowed silently. She bowed her head to say grace. "Father, we thank you for this food, for life, for truth," she prayed softly. "May the truth set us free in Jesus' name." "Amen," Bayo muttered. They ate in silence for a while. Plates clinked softly. A generator coughed somewhere in the building. Then, without raising her voice, Funke spoke. "How long?" Bayo looked up, startled. "What?" "How long have you been sleeping with her?" she repeated, still cutting her chicken calmly. He swallowed. "Funke, it was a mistake. It just happened. You know how this Lagos is. Pressure. I've been stressed with investors." She looked at him over her glasses. "Don't insult me," she said quietly. "Your zip did not open by itself at the office, at home, in hotels." He blinked. "Who told you?" She continued as if he hadn't spoken. "Did you use our joint account to buy her car, to pay for her Dubai trip, for those hotel bills?" His eyes flickered. That tiny movement was all she needed. "In our culture," she said slowly, "they say a good wife should endure. They tell us older women to manage when our husbands misbehave, pray, fast, keep quiet so that the children will not be ashamed. I have done all of that." Her voice was calm, but inside, memories flickered. Nights she stayed up when he came late, fasting programs she joined when the company nearly died, insults from extended family when they were still poor. "Funke, I know I've failed you," he said quickly, leaning forward. "But you know I've been under pressure. In this tech world, image is everything. Investors, young staff, they expect you to dishonor your wife?" she asked, eyebrow raised. He stuttered. "No, but—" "You see me as what, Bayo?" she asked softly. "Be honest. Let's talk as if God is not watching, since you seem to have forgotten him." He hesitated, then shrugged defensively. You're not like these young women now. Times have changed. You don't understand this tech world. Sometimes I just need someone who gets it. Someone who is not always talking about church and school fees." The knife and fork in her hand paused. "That's what you think I am? Just school fees and cooking oil?" He saw a chance to defend himself and foolishly took it. "Funke, I built this thing from scratch," he said, voice rising. "You know how I suffered. These young boys in Yaba didn't sleep. I carried this company on my head. If I want to enjoy small now at my age—" She cut him off with a small nod. "You built it," she repeated, "on your own." He took her quietness as agreement. Pride swelled. "Yes, now," he said, "you are just at home with the children. You did your own part, yes, but this tech thing, it's me, my idea, my sweat. Those small shares I gave you, you should be grateful. Do you know how many women are just sitting at home with nothing? At least you are shareholder." He chuckled bitterly at that last word. Under the serviette, the phone camera captured everything. His words, his tone, the contempt. Funke swallowed a sip of water. "So, I am just your old wife with small shares, an illiterate who doesn't understand tech.
That's not what I said, he snapped impatiently. Don't twist my words. You know I love you. But Kemi, she's young, fresh. You are 60. Let's be realistic. There it was, the raw truth. She let the silence sit between them like a third person at the table. In that silence, something shifted inside her. The years of swallowing, enduring, making excuses ended. She stood up slowly, gathered the plates. Eat well, she said quietly. You will need strength. Tomorrow we will have visitors. Visitors, he frowned. Our children, she replied, and a few other people. He looked confused, then shrugged. Call them if you like, just don't disgrace me in front of them, Funke. Remember, I am still their father. She gave him a long, unreadable look. That is the only thing you have left that I cannot take from you, she said. Enjoy it while you can. That night, when he snored beside her, she sat in the dim light of her bedside lamp, phone in hand, listening back to the recording. Each insult was a nail, each dismissal a hammer. She forwarded the video to a secure email account and an external drive. Years in banking had taught her, always have backup. The enduring wife was done enduring. Now she would execute a strategy years in the making. By Friday evening, the Adeyemi apartment was fuller than it had been in months. Their firstborn, Timmy, flew in from London where he worked as a software engineer. He landed at Muratala Muhammad, fought through immigration and the chaotic arrival hall, then slid into an Uber, the driver's radio blaring Afrobeats as they crawled through Third Mainland Bridge traffic. Lagos never changes, he muttered, watching hawkers weave between cars with gala and cold drinks. Their second, Sade, arrived from Abuja on a later flight. Corporate lawyer, sharp suit, braided hair pulled back neatly. She hailed a ride from the airport and texted her mother, "Mummy, I'm 20 minutes away. Hope everything is okay, oh?" The last-born, Femi, burst through the door from Yaba, smelling of code and coffee. He ran a small startup himself, working remotely with a foreign accelerator. "Mummy," he shouted, hugging her tight. "You didn't tell me Timmy is coming too. What's going on? Family meeting?" Funke smiled, hugging him just a little longer than usual. "You will soon see." The house staff moved quietly, sensing tension they couldn't name. The house help arranged extra plates, the cook seasoned meat for pepper soup, the driver carried in luggage. Lagos glittered outside as night fell. Car headlights, neon signs, the faint outline of the Lekki Ikoyi Bridge lit up like a necklace. Inside, the AC hummed, but the air was heavy. When Timmy arrived, he greeted his father first, bending slightly to hug him. Bayo clapped him on the back. "London boy," he boomed, pretending normalcy. "See muscles. You people are enjoying there." "Good evening, Sa," Sade said, arriving next, greeting her father with a brief hug. Her eyes scanned his face, then moved to her mother. She saw something there, a quiet steel she recognized from childhood. Femi cracked jokes, tried to lighten the mood, but even he could feel it. Something serious was coming. After dinner, rice, moi, grilled fish, salad, Funke cleared her throat. "My children," she began, "thank you for coming home at short notice. I know you are all busy, but there are matters we cannot discuss on WhatsApp." "Is everyone okay?" Timmy asked immediately, eyes darting between his parents. "Everybody is alive," she replied, "but some things are dying." Bayo shifted in his chair. "Funke, don't dramatize, please." She ignored him. "In this Lagos," she continued, "you can be living in a mansion and not know what is really happening in the hearts of the people inside. Today you will know." She looked at each of them one by one. Her firstborn, always serious, her only daughter, sharp and observant, her lastborn, laughing but loyal. "And after you know," she said softly, "I want you to stand where your conscience tells you to stand, even if that place is not comfortable." A generator somewhere in the building coughed and picked up speed. The lights flickered briefly, then held steady. "Let's go to the living room," she said. "We need the TV."
The living room was spacious, with a large flat-screen TV mounted on the wall, shelves filled with framed family photos, awards, and small sculptures brought from art galleries in VI. A faint scent of air freshener, lavender, hung in the air. Funke picked up the remote, switched the TV input to HDMI. She plugged in a small USB drive. "Mummy, what are we watching?" Femi asked, trying to joke. "Old home videos?" "In a way," she said. "Sit." They obeyed. Bayo sat at one end of the L-shaped sofa, trying to project authority. Funke remained standing for a moment, then sat on a single armchair opposite the TV, like a judge about to begin a trial. She pressed play. At first, they saw the dining table they had all eaten at countless times. They heard plates, cutlery, then voices. Bayo's voice, Funke's voice. "You see me as what, Bayo? Be honest. Let's talk as if God is not watching, since you seem to have forgotten him." Silence in the room. On the screen, Bayo's recorded voice responded, You're not like these young women now. Times have changed. You don't understand this tech world. Sometimes I just need someone who gets it, someone who is not always talking about church and school fees." Sade's face hardened. Timmy shifted forward in his seat. The video continued. "Funke, I built this thing from scratch. You know how I suffered. These young boys in Yaba didn't sleep. I carried this company on my head. If I want to enjoy small now at my age..." On the sofa, real Bayo shifted, fists clenching. "Funke, what is this?" he snapped. She held up a hand. "Let them hear you fully." "You were just at home with the children," the recorded Bayo continued. "You did your own part, yes, but this tech thing, it's me, my idea, my sweat. Those small shares I gave you, you should be grateful. Do you know how many women are just sitting at home with nothing? At least you are shareholder." There was a sharp intake of breath from Timmy. On the screen, the conversation played on until Bayo said it, clearly, without stutter. "You are 60. Let's be realistic." Funke pressed pause. The room was so quiet they could hear the faint hum of the fridge in the open-planned kitchen behind them. "Mom," Sade whispered, eyes wide. Timmy turned slowly to look at his father. "Dad?" Bayo tried to gather himself. "Timmy, you know how these things... This is out of context. I was angry. Your mother is recording private conversations now?" Funke inhaled. "That is not the only recording," she said, "but I think this one is enough to show your heart." "I said I'm sorry," he snapped. "Is that not enough? Must you bring the children into this?" Femi, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly straightened. "Bring us into what exactly?" he asked, "because so far all we've heard is you insulting our mother." "That is between husband and wife," Bayo said quickly. "You children should not..." Funke cut in. "Is it between husband and wife that you are sleeping with your assistant in your office, in this house, using our joint account to buy her car, to book hotel rooms, to pay for trips?" Sade's head whipped toward her mother. "What?" Funke looked at her daughter. "I have statements. I have the CCTV footage from the executive suite at the office. I have hotel receipts. And I have witnesses, anonymous for now, to keep their jobs." Timmy's voice was low, dangerous. "Dad, is that true?" Bayo exhaled angrily. "You people don't understand what it takes to run a company in this country. The pressure, the expectations. Sometimes a man needs to throw away his vows," Sade cut in, eyes blazing. "A man needs to insult the woman who raised his children?" Femi shook his head slowly. "I used to brag to my friends about you, Dad. My father, the tech king. I feel like a fool now." On the TV, the paused image showed Bayo at the dining table, mid-gesture, arrogance frozen on his face. "In this house," Funke said quietly, "there are two betrayals, the one in the bed and the one in the mind. One can be forgiven. Some women forgive even that, but both together, and then you add money mismanagement on top?" Mismanagement, he scoffed, clinging to business as his last ground of superiority. What are you talking about? This whole family is living off my hustle. This apartment, your school fees abroad, your startups. Funke reached into a large leather folder by her chair. Ah, she murmured, we have arrived. Funke pulled out a stack of old documents, neatly clipped. She laid them on the coffee table one by one, some slightly yellowed, some crisp and new. Timmy, she said, you remember when you wanted to do your master's in the UK? He nodded slowly. Yes, ma. You people sold land in Ibadan to pay part of it. Dad told me. Your father sold nothing, she replied quietly. He had nothing left to sell that wasn't already leveraged or under threat. She picked up an old share certificate. I liquidated this, my early shares in that small payment company you now use every day on your phone. I took the money. I paid part of your fees. I kept quiet because my name doesn't need to be on everything. Timmy's mouth opened slightly. Mom, you invested in PaySwitch? She smiled faintly. Long before anyone believed in them. She turned to Sade. You, law school in Abuja, rent, textbooks, flight tickets back and forth when you are homesick. Do you remember any month your allowance did not come? Sade shook her head, tears gathering. Never, Mommy. I took on consulting jobs, Funke said. After leaving the bank, I did accounting for SMEs in the night. I woke at 3 a.m. to reconcile accounts before you woke up. I used my network to get Dad's first real angel investors. I sat in those early meetings. I signed those early documents as majority shareholder. She held up the CAC form from 2008. Her name glowed at the top. Founder, Funke Adeyemi, 62%. Femi leaned forward, eyes wide. Wait, Mommy, you are the founder? She nodded. From day one. Your father is co-founder and CEO, the public face. That was our agreement. I would be the quiet backbone. I thought we were a team. Sadi took the document, scanning the lines like the lawyer she was. Mommy, this is airtight. Your name is everywhere. Company registration, original share structure, board resolutions, investment agreements. Funke continued, voice steady. When his government contract failed and they almost arrested him, who liquidated her early investments to clear his dangerous debts? You, Timmy whispered. When the bank refused to lend him again, who put her name down as guarantor because her credit was still clean? You, Sade echoed. When they moved from Yaba tiny office to the first VI office, whose money paid the deposit? You, Femi said hoarsely. Bayo shifted uncomfortably. Funke, I didn't say you didn't help. You said I was just at home, she reminded him. You said I don't understand tech. You said you gave me small shares so I could feel important. The children looked at their father with new eyes. The myth of the lone genius cracked visibly. Sade's voice trembled with anger. Dad, how could you erase her like that? In interviews? In conversations? To your staff? To your mistress? Bayo tried to stand, to reclaim control. I didn't erase her. Everyone knows I have a wife. I talk about her. I just don't bore them with old stories. Old stories? Timmy repeated slowly. This old story is the only reason your creditors didn't carry you in 2005. Femi's eyes were wet now. I remember, Dad. I remember coming out one night to drink water and seeing Mum crying over a calculator. I was like 10. I asked her what was wrong. She said, Nothing, my dear. Go and sleep. Mummy's just tired. I didn't know she was carrying both of you. They turned as one, almost unconsciously, toward Funke. Mummy, Timmy said quietly, slipping off the sofa to kneel beside her chair like a small boy again. We didn't know. Forgive us for not asking more questions. Forgive us for believing the story that only one person built this family. Sade came to kneel on the other side, taking her mother's hand. We are with you, she said simply. Wherever you stand in this matter, that is where we will stand. Femi moved too, placing a hand over theirs. Always, Mummy. Bayo stared, stunned. The loyalty he had always assumed would default to him had shifted, quietly but firmly, to the woman he had mocked. Funke looked at her 3 children, her heart aching and swelling at the same time. "This is why I kept quiet for so long," she said. "I did not want to break your hearts. I did not want you to see your father as small, but he has insisted on making himself small." She straightened, gently extracting her hands. "Stand up," she told them. "There is one more thing you must all see. Then tomorrow we will take this from family level to corporate level." Funke reached for another set of papers, thicker, heavier. These were bound documents, some with seals and ribbons. She also took out a sleek tablet, powered it on, and opened her email. "When we started SwiftNova," she began, "I insisted on 3 things. 1, my majority shareholding, properly documented. 2, a family trust, making all of you beneficiaries of my stake. 3, a clause in the shareholders' agreement that allows the majority shareholder to remove the CEO and chairman with or without cause at a duly convened extraordinary general meeting." Sade's eyes lit with professional recognition. "You put that in?" Funke smiled faintly. "I may not write code, but I read contracts, word by word." She swiped on the tablet, projecting a scanned copy to the TV screen. There, in clear typed English, sat the clause. Under it, signatures, hers, Bayo's, early investors. Bayo lurched to his feet. "Funke, what are you doing?" She looked at him evenly. "I am exercising my rights," she said. "Rights you agreed to when you were desperate, rights you forgot because you believed your own hype." On the screen, she pulled up the most recent cap table, a list of who owned what in SwiftNova. Funke Adeyemi, 62% via Adeyemi Family Trust. Various VC funds and angels, 23%. Employees stock option pool, 10%. Adebayo Adeyemi, 5%. Femi gasped. 5%? Dad, you've been shouting up and down with only 5%? Bayo's face drained. That's not accurate. I have more. We restructured." "Yes," Funke nodded. "We restructured when new investors came in. You signed those documents. You agreed to dilution. I did too, but not as much. Because I put in more capital at the beginning, they insisted I keep control. You were too excited about being called CEO to read the fine print." Sade shook her head slowly. "Oh, my God." Funke leaned back, voice calm, almost gentle. "Bayo, this company you are using to insult me, this empire you think you built alone, you are a minority shareholder and an employee. A highly paid one, yes, a visible one, but still an employee." She picked up a letter from the folder, its letterhead from a prestigious Lagos law firm. "This," she said, "is a notice of an extraordinary general meeting, EGM, that I, as majority shareholder, have already called. Copies have been served to all investors and board members. Agenda: removal of Mr. Adebayo Adeyemi as CEO and chairman of SwiftNova Technologies Ltd., appointment of new chairperson and interim CEO, ratification of updated corporate governance policies."
Bayo lunged toward her, snatching at the paper. "You can't do this! You will destroy the company! Investors will panic!" Funke did not flinch. "I had a Zoom call with them yesterday," she replied coolly. "They have seen the evidence. Financial misbehavior with company funds, HR violations, sexual relationship with a subordinate, reputational risk. Do you think foreign funds want to be caught in a Me Too scandal in Lagos? They are more than ready to see you go if the company is secure." Timi nodded slowly. "They'll sacrifice the face to save the asset." Funke smiled sadly. "Exactly." She turned back to Bayo. "I also informed them," she continued, that I will be stepping forward as chairwoman, not as some confused old woman, but as the founder and majority shareholder I have always been. We will bring in a strong operational CEO from within or outside. Femi will work closely with product. Sade will help redesign our governance documents. Timmy will advise on technology roadmap. This family will not allow your midlife crisis to scatter what we have built. The room vibrated with the weight of it. I have also, she added, frozen the joint account you have been abusing. I instructed the bank as signatory and holder of majority corporate rights to require dual signatures for any withdrawal above a small amount. The house you are standing in is in my name. The cars you drive are leased through the company. The only property you fully own personally is that your small flat in Ogudu. I suggest you go and remember what humility tastes like. Bayo sank back onto the sofa, deflated. Funke, please, he whispered now, voice shaking. We've been through so much. Don't do this. Think of what people will say. Think of the papers, the blogs. She looked at him a long time. I thought of what people would say, she replied, when I was covering your shame from creditors, when I was selling my jewelry to feed us, when I was sitting in lawyers' offices structuring this company while you are posing for photographs. You did not worry about what people would say when you lay down with your assistant, when you called me useless, when you squandered our joint sweat on a girl younger than your firstborn. She stood up, shoulders back. I will no longer protect your image at the cost of my soul. She turned to her children. Tomorrow, she said, some of you will come with me to the EGM as representatives of the family trust. After that, you may choose your own relationship with your father as adults. But as far as SwiftNova is concerned, his chapter is closing. Mine is beginning. Bayo knew in that moment that it was over. Not just the marriage as he knew it, but the illusion of power he had wrapped himself in. The empire he had paraded as his own was built on papers he had barely read, and the poor old wife he'd mocked was about to sign him into unemployment. The next week, Lagos business blogs had a new story. Shock in tech space as Lego CEO ousted by majority shareholder wife. Silent founder steps forward, the woman behind SwiftNova revealed. Boardroom drama, CEO accused of misconduct removed by wife owner. Screenshots of headlines flew across WhatsApp groups and Twitter. On LinkedIn, polite corporate language statements appeared. SwiftNova Technologies Ltd. announces leadership transition. We thank Mr. Adeyemi for his years of service and wish him well in his future endeavors. In reality, the extraordinary general meeting had been straightforward and brutal. The boardroom at SwiftNova's VI office was full, investors on video calls, in-house counsel, senior execs. Funke walked in dressed in a simple but powerful navy blue aro and buba, gele tied perfectly, pearls at her neck, no flashy designer logos, just quiet authority. Bayo sat at the far end, eyes tired, attempting dignity in his suit. Kemi was nowhere in sight. HR had accepted her resignation the day before. As chair of the meeting, by shareholder right, Funke read out the agenda calmly. Investors asked a few sharp questions. Legal counsel confirmed the validity of the documents and the breach of company policies by the CEO. When it was time to vote, the outcome wasn't even close. Resolution 1, removal of Mr. Adebayo Adeyemi as CEO and chairman. Votes in favor, 85%. Against, 5%. Abstain, 10%. The gavel, symbolic but real in its implications, came down. Later, as staff watched from glass partitions, security politely escorted Bayo from the executive floor. Some younger employees whispered, phones half raised to sneak photos. The older ones looked away, too respectful to stare. He passed the framed company timeline on the wall, early photos in the Yaba office, the first small server, the first hackathon. In many of those pictures, he was front
front and center. Funke was in almost none, though she had been present at most of those moments just outside the camera's frame. Now the frame had shifted. In the underground parking lot, the company driver hesitated beside the black SUV that had always been Oga's car. "Sir, HR said I should wait for Madam," he mumbled. Bayo stared at him, chest tight. "It's okay," he said finally. "I'll call a taxi." He pulled out his phone, the same device he had used to text Kemi about hotel bookings and transfers from the joint account. Now, his banking apps showed a very different picture. Joint accounts frozen, corporate cards canceled, personal account thinner than his pride. He ordered a ride-hailing car. As he waited beside the entrance of the building he once owned in everything but name, a familiar voice called his phone. "Kemi," he breathed, relief and desperation mingling. "My baby, where are you? I need to see you. Things are rough now, but don't worry, I'll bounce back. You know I always do." On the other end, silence. Then her voice, cooler than he'd ever heard it. "Uncle Bayo, I've had everything," she said. "My friends sent me the blog articles. You didn't tell me your wife owned the company. You didn't tell me you only have 5%. He flinched. "What does that matter? I'm still me. I still have connections." "Connections without money?" She cut in. "I beg, I can't suffer with you. I thought you were a big man. I didn't leave my small boyfriend in Unilag to come and be managing with a disgraced ex-CEO. "Kemi, don't talk like that. Please, I'm busy," she said. "I've blocked your number before, Seth. I just picked by mistake. Don't call me again." The line went dead. He stared at the phone screen, then at the shiny glass building with SwiftNova's logo. A security guard approached, his expression apologetic. "Ogabayo, good afternoon, sir," he said softly. "I beg, HR say make we no allow you go up again. Make you no vex, sir." Bayo's laugh came out bitter and small. "It's okay," he said. "Do your job." He climbed into the back of the ride-hailing car when it arrived. No tinted windows, no leather seats, just the faint smell of air freshener and the sound of the driver's gospel music on low. "Where to, sir?" the driver asked. He thought of the Lekki apartment, then remembered the deed in Funke's name, the text from their lawyer about separation papers, the fact that his access card to the building had already stopped working. "Ogudu, please," he muttered. "Old estate." As the car joined the sea of vehicles on Ozumbambadiwe, then the bridge, he stared at the city he had once felt he owned. Billboards advertising tech products, apps, fintechs, all roads he used to walk as a king. Now he was just one more tired man in a traffic jam, watching hawkers tap on windows with plantain chips and phone chargers. In Lekki, at the high-rise, the security gate opened smoothly for Funke's car as she returned from the EGM. The guards greeted her with new, deeper respect. "Good evening, ma. Welcome, ma. Congratulations, ma." Because even in Lagos, word moves fast downstairs. That night, Bayo slept on an old mattress in his small Ogudu flat, generators humming neighbors' electricity as he lay in the heat, no AC, no marble floor. The assistant who once called him baby had blocked him on WhatsApp. Investors didn't return his calls. Double eviction, from home, from office, from illusion. A new day dawned over Lagos. From the 18th floor of SwiftNova's headquarters, the city looked almost peaceful. The morning sun reflected off the Lagos lagoon, casting shimmering light on the water. The Lekki Ikoyi Bridge stood in the distance, its cables like strings of a giant harp. In a corner office that used to belong to her husband, a new nameplate sat on the desk, Mrs. Funke Adeyemi, founder and chairwoman. Funke stood by the window for a moment, watching the traffic slowly build below. Yellow Danfos, sleek SUVs, Okadas dodging between lanes. The generator's low rumble mixed with the muffled sound of keyboards and quiet conversations from outside her office. Her children were there. Timi leaned against a cabinet, laptop open, already sketching ideas for a cleaner product roadmap. Femi sat on a chair, scrolling through internal Slack messages, replying to worried staff with reassuring words. Sade stood by the whiteboard, marker in hand, writing bullet points under the heading New Governance and HR and Ethics. "Mommy," Femi said, grinning, "I still can't believe this is real. Look at you, chairwoman." She chuckled softly. "Look at us," she corrected. "This is not just my win, it is our responsibility." Sade turned. "We've drafted the memo to staff," she said. "It explains the transition, reinforces our values, and makes it clear there is zero tolerance for abuse of power. We've also included a new whistleblower policy." Funke nodded. "Circulate it by noon and schedule a town hall. I want to speak to them directly. Let them see that this company is not collapsing, it is maturing." She walked to the desk and ran her fingers lightly over the smooth surface. So many decisions had been made here, some good, some terrible. Now it was her turn. Later that week, she went on a popular business show. The host, a polished lady in bright Ankara, smiled into the camera. "Today, we have with us the woman who has shaken the Lagos tech space," she announced, "the silent founder who stepped into the light, Mrs. Funke Adeyemi." Funke smiled, elegant and composed. "Ma," the host asked, "what do you want people, especially women, to learn from your story?" Funke looked straight into the camera. "First," she said, "never underestimate your own value because others cannot see it. Document your contributions. Protect your interests. Even in love, don't be foolish." Second, to the men, don't mistake a peaceful woman for a powerless one. The fact that she is not shouting does not mean she does not know what is going on. And don't build an empire on someone's sacrifice, then try to erase them. Third, to our elders, our culture, we must stop telling women that endurance in silence is the highest virtue. Endurance without boundaries breeds abuse. Age does not make a woman useless. At 60, I am leading a tech company in Lagos, and my mind is sharper than ever. In her office, sunlight streamed through the glass, casting bright patterns on the floor like a new beginning. Back home, the Lekki apartment felt different too. The atmosphere was lighter. Music played softly sometimes, old Ebenezer Obey tunes that Funke loved. Her children visited more often, bringing grandchildren and laughter. The cook smiled more freely. On the balcony, where she liked to stand in the evenings, the city stretched before her, chaotic, noisy, alive. She had been humiliated, underestimated, almost written out of her own story. But like Lagos itself, she had refused to die. She had rebuilt, reclaimed, redefined. Wherever you are watching this from, Ajagunle or Atlanta, Abuja or Amsterdam, remember Funke's story. Silence is not stupidity. Age is not irrelevance. Kindness is not weakness. If you've watched till this point, type in the comments, dignity is wealth. Tell me where you're watching from, and if you believe women like Funke deserve their flowers while alive, hit the like button now. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful real-life stories, and share this video with a friend or relative who needs a reminder. Never build your entire life on someone who would throw you away for something shiny and new, and never ever sign away your power.